Hello dear students, welcome back to another unit of EVS where we are continuing to speak about food. In the earlier unit, we spoke about food for us humans. Today, we will speak about the food for plants and animals. Okay, so food is something very important to all living things. Why? Because food gives us uh, nutrients to grow and have energy for all the activities, right? Okay, so that is the reason why we need food. From where do we get the food? Plant and animal sources. And also, we also know that the food that we get in a particular region is based on the climate of that region, okay, landform, okay, and also depending on the vegetation. Okay, these are factors that determine what food we get in a certain region. For example, you know, some of the food stuff we get in India may not be available overseas, and some of the food that is in the overseas may not be available here. So depending on the climate, landform and vegetation, these are the three main reasons for the availability of a certain type of food. Now, all the living beings in nature, we live by interdependence between each other and upon the physical environment. So, there is always a continuous activity network happening, and that is how we maintain the ecosystem. All right. So, since we are going to talk about food for plants and animals, let's begin with food for plants. How do plants eat food? Okay, so more than eating, the plants are the biggest producers of food. Okay, I'll explain. Plants are the only living beings that make their own food. Plants are the only living beings that make their own food. So that makes them producers. Producers. Okay, they produce food, or otherwise the other name is autotrophs. Okay, they are also called as autotrophs. Now, how do plants make their food? We have learnt in the past years and in the previous units how they make their food. They make their food through a process that is called as photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the name of the process. Okay, now what is involved in the process? So there is a plant, okay, and okay, then okay, so the kitchen of the plant is the leaf, you have learnt, okay, or it is the stomach of the plant. So what happens? Then there's something very special about the color of the leaf, that is green. There is a purpose that it is green, okay, because it has chlorophyll pigment. It has chlorophyll pigment, something that you learnt in the younger classes, but it's always good to review and learn something new from there, right? All right, so the leaves have chlorophyll pigment, okay, and this leaf will trap the energy and the light from the sun, and from the atmospheric air it takes the carbon dioxide, and then from the roots and stem it gets the water and nutrients, okay. Nutrients are not very important, but the most important are the sun's energy and light, then the carbon dioxide and the water, and the leaf will use that and do the photosynthesis, okay, and that's how the plant makes its own food. And the end result, when plants make its own food, it's doing a big favor to the nature. That is, it will release oxygen into the atmosphere, yeah, which is so very important for all animal and human life. We need oxygen. The plants are so good. They take in the polluted air, that is the carbon dioxide, and let out the oxygen. So this is what the plants do. Now, the plants which have the green chlorophyll only can do this. Okay, so mushrooms cannot do it, okay, because it doesn't have the chlorophyll. And cactuses, yes, cactuses can do it because they are green and they don't have leaves, they are only stems. Okay, so that's about the plant food and plants. Now, have you heard of something called plants eating insects? Are you surprised? Yeah, so plants that eat insects are called as insectivorous plants. We thought the plants are only producing food for the nature, but sometimes the plants are eating other insects. But there is one particular reason, not the reason is these plants are living in area where the nitrogen is very less. Okay, nitrogen is very less. So to make up for the need of nitrogen, these plants depend on insects. Now, which are the insectivorous plants? Okay, there are three kinds. There are three. Venus flytrap. Okay, Venus flytrap, pitcher plant, and another variety of plant called sundew. Now, how do they eat the insects? Very interesting, right? Something that we need to know. The first one, the Venus trap, imagine the leaf is like this, and on the sides of the leaf there are hair-like follicles, okay, which have very sensitive to touch. Like, so any insects come, just fly past also, this hair follicles will be very active. So the moment something touches, it will shut, the leaf will shut. So the insect will be trapped inside, and the surface of the leaf has digestive juices or digestive glands which will digest the insect. That is about Venus flytrap. The second one is pitcher plants, shape of a pitcher, and the moment a fly or a insect sits inside the pitcher, on the pitcher, it will close its lid, or it will close the plant, and inside the pitcher there are digestive juices which will, yes, digest the insect. The third kind is the sundew. This plant looks very beautiful. It looks like the dew is, the dew, morning dew is shining, glistening. Okay, but actually they are hair-like follicles, or they call it as tentacles, and they are with glands, and they have a sticky fluid. It attracts, that fluid will attract the insects, and once the insects sit on it, it will be trapped, and then all the other tentacles, like it's full of long tentacles, okay, which looks very beautiful, but the purpose is for this. Okay, so then all the tentacles will bend, and then the whole plant will be bent, and it will come in the form of a fist. Okay, and then it will eat the insect. It will take literally 2 days for the sundew to digest the entire insect, and then it's ready for the next insect after 2 days. So that's about the plants, how they make their food, and a variety of group of plants called insectivorous plants because they need extra nitrogen. The next one is animals. So animals, of course, they depend on plants and other animals, smaller animals, to fulfill their need for food. Okay, so animals, as we learned, they are classified into herbivores, yes, carnivores, herbivores, and omnivores. Okay, so today we will see these animals because they eat food from the the producers or the autotrophs, that is the plants. They are called as primary consumers. Animals, I'm sorry, are generally called as consumers. Okay, the animals are generally called as consumers. Now in consumers we have three groups: primary, okay, secondary, and tertiary. We will learn primary and secondary today. in detail. Okay, the primary consumers are the herbivores themselves. Why are they called primary? Because they directly depend on the producer. Producer is the plant. Directly go and eat from the plant. So they are the herbivores, and they are the cows, buffaloes, deers, etc. Then carnivores are the second kind because they eat okay, let's ask what is the first question. Who are carnivores? Carnivores are the lions, tigers, cheetahs, foxes, etc. What do they eat? Flesh. Flesh of other animals. So, which are the flesh of other animals? The animals that are herbivores mostly. Okay. So, they are called as carnivores are called as secondary consumers. Animals are generally called as consumers, right? They don't make their own food. They depend on plants and other animals. So, they are generally called as consumers, but in that we see three classifications. Primary, and now we come to secondary. Okay, there is a tertiary classification. They eat both primary and secondary. That is why they are called as tertiary. But in this unit, we are not focusing on them another time. Okay, now then so the primary examples we learn: cows, buffaloes, deers, okay, goats, sheep, everything. Secondary are the lions, cheetahs, tigers, foxes, etc. Now next one is so this is the carnivores. Okay, then omnivores. Omnivores come under the tertiary because they eat both animals and plants. The omnivores are, yes, human beings, bears, crows, pigs, peacocks, all these things. They eat both animals and plants. So that is the next category. Then we learned in the previous year that scavengers. We learned it in class 3. Scavengers. Scavengers are the animals that eat dead animals. Okay, dead animals. So like vultures and jackals and hyenas, they all eat dead animals. They are called scavengers. Then the next kind is, I will write it here. The next kind we are going to learn is decomposers. Okay, there are 5 kinds of decomposers. So what are decomposers and what do they do? Decomposers are the next level after the scavengers. So what the scavengers leave behind, okay, the leftovers are eaten by the decomposers. They are the ones who decompose the flesh, the dead flesh and all those things. So, or like bacteria, fungi, some few insects, snails. These are the ones that eat the eat the leftovers. Okay, leftovers of other animal carcasses. Carcasses means dead animals. So they are called decomposers. All right. So we learned these are the various kinds of animal consumers. Okay, they are consuming the plant life. Okay, so since we have done this, now we will see who are the, okay, next we will see what is a parasite. Okay, what is a parasite? Parasite are organisms which depend on a host, which literally live on the host and take all the nourishment from the host. Okay, live in or on the host and take all the nourishment from the host. Sometimes they are harmful. Sometimes their relationship is neutral, no harm. Okay, what are the parasites? We can see mosquitoes. Okay, mosquitoes, leeches, roundworm, hookworm, okay, ticks and lice. Mosquitoes, of course, leeches, okay, you know the leeches will suck blood. Both these insects suck blood. Roundworm and hookworm are found in the animal, especially in the meat and all. Ticks are found on the animals. You must have seen many dogs have ticks, cats have ticks, buffaloes, cows have ticks. Okay, and then the lice. Lice are found in humans and in other animals, and they are all coming under the category of parasites. Alright, so that is what we have learned so far. Now we are going to learn some new, it could be new, but sometimes maybe you already know. It's called ecosystem. What is ecosystem? Ecosystem is a functional unit of the nature. What is functional unit? That means they're always in function. That is, they're always at work. Okay, it's not a passive one. It's an active one. Okay, so functional unit of the nature where the living beings interact with each other and with the physical environment. That is called as an ecosystem. So ecosystem is quite an active system. You know, everybody is interacting with each other and with the physical environment. So it's quite a buzzing group. Yeah. So ecosystem. Now, ecosystem are of various kinds. Okay. The first one is forest. Then it is grassland. Okay. Next one is desert. Then it is marine. And then there is fresh water. So these are the 5 kinds of ecosystem. Like we learned, depending on the area, right? Landform and the climate and the vegetation. No? So ecosystem is very important part of all these forest, grassland, the marine, the fresh water, the desert, all are very important ecosystem for each of these plants and animals. Okay. All right. Next, having done that, let's we learn the next term, which is called as food chain. So what is a food chain? We already learned that every living being is in the nature, we're all interdependent on each other and the nature. So in a food chain, it's very important that we have energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be passed on from one animal to another. So that process is called as a food chain. Okay. So the energy is passed on from the sun, okay, to the plants, okay, then from the plants to the consumers. Okay, what are plants otherwise called as? Yes, producers. Okay, and then it goes on to the primary, secondary, tertiary, and then it goes on to the scavengers, then decomposers. And decomposers, what do? They will, yes, decompose and add those things back to the land and make the land very fertile, and then again the ecosystem, the food chain continues. Okay, so that is what it is called as in the food chain. And who does the decay part? The decomposers. And decomposers are very essential part of a ecosystem and also the food chain. Okay, so having done this much, we will move on and we will see what is there in food web. Okay, before going to the food web, please take a look at your textbook. Look at page number 132. You can observe the various food chains that are given. There is aquatic plant which is eaten by a small fish. The fish is eaten by a large fish. Then there is grass eaten by a grasshopper, which is eaten by a frog, then by a snake, and then by the eagle. And then in the third food chain, there is grass and then the deer and lion. Why is grass or green always the first one? Yes, because they are producers. Then comes the others, the consumers. All right. So these are the 3 kinds of food chains, just for you to understand. So let's dive into food web. Food web is when there is a network of such food chains. You saw 3 individual food chains just now in page number 132. Now when they are all interlinked, they are called as a food web. For example, a lion does not just eat the deer, right? The lion will eat a rabbit and other small animals. So, and then deer, buffaloes and all won't just eat only grass. They'll go and eat the leaves of other plants also, like a shrub or a herb and all. They will eat, right? So, that is when these food chains become interlinked, and that interlinking of food chains is called as a food web. Okay, there are many kinds of food webs in the ecosystem. That is how we maintain the balance of a ecosystem. Now, food web, you can see in your page, in your textbook, page number 132. As you can see, consumers are not dependent only on one type of food. They can eat a variety of food. And the arrows show how the flow of energy is from the plant or the producers to the consumers. Okay, so we have learned all the things about food of plants and animals and the ecosystem, food chain and the food webs. Now let's look at what is a balanced nature. Okay, when all these food chains, okay, balanced in nature or balance in nature. So when all these food chains, food webs and all the things that we learned so far are working like a clockwise, like by default system, then there is balance in nature. If there is a slight problem in any of the food chains, okay, then there is a imbalance. Like for example, if in a particular locality there is, suppose take a desert area, or so okay, let's take a desert area. There are not much plants. Then what happens? So the herbivores are not getting enough food. Okay, then take an example where there is absolutely no carnivores. Then what happens? Then the herbivores will keep on eating all the grass in that area and the vegetation will be over in no time, and then the human beings living in that area will get affected. Okay, so it's just an example. So if any part of the food chain there is a small problem, then the link is broken. Just you think of a chain, okay, that's what happens. So that is why there needs to be a balance in nature. So I hope you learned a lot about ecosystem and about animals and food and the interdependence. Yes, and I hope you gained a lot of information. So we've come to the end of this class and we will meet you soon with another interesting EVS lesson. Bye-bye.